My name is Shalini Sinha, and I work with an international organization called Wiego, which is an acronym, and it stands for Women in Informal Employment, Globalizing and Organizing. And I am the sector specialist for home-based workers. I'm stationed in Delhi. See, if we talk about the poor working women in India, they are really a very marginalized and a vulnerable group. And a large number of them, overwhelmingly large number of them, are in the informal employment, and 97%, which is very large. And by informal employment, it means they're working at home, they're working on the streets, they're working at waste bins, they are working in other people's homes. So they work as home-based workers, they work as street vendors, they work as rag pickers or waste workers, or they work as domestic workers. And in informal employment, the employment is insecure. There is no security of employment. You can lose your job anytime. Tomorrow you come for your work and you will not be there. Many are self-employed, so there is no security. The vendor sells her products, if she gets a place to sit. If she doesn't get it, if the police comes and takes her away from the streets, she earns nothing that day, and so nobody eats in her house. So there is no security, there's no social security, there's no insurance. If she falls ill or anybody in her family falls ill, there is no system in which she will get access to any kind of health insurance. We do have a government sort of health system, but the quality is very poor, the access is extremely poor. So the poor don't have access to it. Then they have no bargaining power because they have no voice. They are so poor and so vulnerable. So a woman who's working at home is so dependent on the middleman to get her that work. So if she tells him that she wants better wages, he will say, okay, I'll find somebody else to do that work, which eventually means that she will lose it. So she's isolated, she's vulnerable, she has no voice because she's so alone, and these are the problems that any worker who's in the informal sector, a women worker particularly, are facing. Then there are other issues which are related to her being a woman. So which are that she has very large care responsibilities. Anybody falls ill in the house, the responsibility is hers. Collecting water, keeping the house clean, looking after children, everything is hers. So she works round the clock in economic, in paid, unpaid work. And these are the challenges that she faces. Even when she has children, there is no maternity benefit for her. So having a child means not just loss of work, it also means additional health expenses if she goes to the hospital. So her life is very vulnerable, it's very insecure. But the fact is that she is working, she continues to work. And most poor women are working in India in various jobs which are whether visible to the policymakers or not visible to the policymakers. Patriarchy and the social constraints that women have plays out in the economics field also. So they are given they are lowest in the value chain or supply chain of work. They are poorly paid, they are not paid equal to men, and there are restrictions on movement outside the home or outside the locality, which means that all these things come together to confine her into a situation where she's forced to take on these jobs which do not pay well, offer no protection. Besides, there are generational deficiencies that she has faced in terms of nutrition, in terms of education, and in terms of exposure. So fear is very real. Fear from the community, fear from what the world is going to say, fear of stepping out. They are very real constraints that a woman faces. And many of these come together to put her in a position where she is earning less, has very less protection, and works in the informal economy. So they play out together.